Hi everyone, my name is Simon Shin from the Ethos Fund. Today we have two very special guests. First of all, Ken here, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Ken. I'm the founder and CEO of Xverse. Xverse is a Bitcoin Web3 ecosystem wallet. We support Bitcoin, layer 2s on Bitcoin, like stacks, ordinals, runes, BRC20 tokens. We support all of that. Yeah.
DOMO.
Hey everyone, I'm DOMO, creator of BRC20. Before that, I was an on-chain analyst. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for your intros. If you can share, your story of how you got into crypto or Bitcoin, I think the audience would love to hear your guys' story.
I can go. I'm a data scientist, so in COVID, I was looking for data to analyze, and crypto data was pretty clean. And I put my mind to making some early Nansen-style trading tools like trading bots, et cetera, So I got used to Ethereum there, found NFTs 2021, really found my niche in that, and primarily did that cycle. And so when Ordinals came out, it was a no-brainer. I was really trying to grow my brand in the analytics space, so I started building analytics dashboards, and then BRC20 was just meant to be another dashboard, but then obviously took a life of its own. Yeah.
So actually, let me ask you a question. So you are known as the founder and creator of BRC20. Did you work on that by yourself, or did you work with other friends or colleagues?
No, the only person that knew about it was my girlfriend at the time. I remember saying, this is a really good idea, and then didn't leave my room for 2 days. Yeah, it was just me.
Cool. And Ken?
So I've always been really interested in Bitcoin ever since, I think, 2013. But I didn't really get into it professionally until 2017. And that's when I joined a project that was working on building a decentralized naming service on Bitcoin. And now that project is called Stacks. At the time, when we were building this thing on Bitcoin, we realized there's basically no way you could scale that to millions of users, because it was also kind of in the last bull market, and the fees on chain were crazy expensive. So if you try to do anything, it was just going to cost like hundreds of dollars, right? And that's why Stacks became a Bitcoin scaling project, to try and reduce those fees, make it more advanced in terms of smart contracts, so you can build more Web3 applications. And while I was working with Stacks, I saw this opportunity to build a Bitcoin Web3 wallet, because there was no other wallet that was servicing Bitcoin Web3, right? All the Bitcoin wallets are, the user experience is not great, and they're geared towards people that have very advanced knowledge of Bitcoin and how it works. And on the other chains, MetaMask and the other wallets, they're not really supporting Bitcoin. So I started Xverse to build this Bitcoin Web3 wallet.
Thank you for sharing that.
I created BRC20 on Xverse as well, so.
Awesome.
Nice. So I think one of the reasons we're having this conference here in Seoul is this Bitcoin 2.0 movement. I guess, how would you guys describe that, and why, is that important? Why do you guys think that it is important?
So I would describe this maybe not as Bitcoin 2.0, but more like a renaissance where new ideas, or even previously imagined ideas, are coming back to life, and builders are coming back to Bitcoin. I think ultimately, if Bitcoin was to survive as a chain and have utility and actually have mass adoption, you're going to have to change something, whether it's the protocol itself or you have to build layers on top of it, right? And I think starting with ordinals, it kind of brought back a lot of builders' attentions to Bitcoin. And we were also kind of excited at the time to see so many people building applications on Bitcoin. Now we have marketplaces, we have DeFi projects, all building on layer 1. And it also created a lot of demand for the layer 2s because of the activity, right? And that's where we shine, right? We want to support Bitcoin L2 so that we can scale Bitcoin to millions of users.
Yeah, I quite like the Renaissance analogy because I think there's certainly a period, maybe from the 2017 bull market onwards, which can kind of be seen as like the dark ages of Bitcoin, where people were, it kind of had become a bit of a toxic community, rejecting progress unless it was exactly within the mindset of the tastemakers or the cult makers at the time. And I think many people left Bitcoin to other ecosystems like Ethereum, Solana, Aptos Suite, like because of just this prohibitive mindset at the time. So yeah, I totally agree with the Renaissance analogy.
So for me personally, I first started to participate in this Bitcoin Renaissance last year. And as an active participant in the space, I'm starting to see some challenges. But what are some of the biggest challenges you see currently right now for user adoption?
For me, I think focusing maybe on the fungibles, because that's what I know best. I think the two biggest problems that we're facing right now are liquidity. For the most part, these tokens trade. The only way that they can trade fully trustlessly is in single-sided order books, which is just not the experience that people have had from Solana or Ethereum. So that needs to improve, and I think it will in the coming months. The other is interoperability. I think the fact that Runes, BRC20, Ordinals just can't interact with each other right now on layer 1 is really prohibitive for growth. Like it's kind of creating a hot ball of money that moves from one to the other to the other. And without that composability where they can build up on top of each other, I think it will really struggle. And then the last is programmability. I think that will really unlock some more use cases, particularly on the DeFi side. So I think those three are what I'm looking at from a fungibles perspective.
Yeah, I think mostly in a similar vein, there's a lot of fragmentation in the ecosystem. I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. On one hand, you have people exploring different ways of building or scaling Bitcoin, but on the other hand, it's hard for to have this one single unified user experience in Bitcoin, and it's hard for us as well as a wallet because now we have to choose which protocols to support, and it's difficult to make a bet because there's so many of them, and some projects are super early, and some projects, even though they have a lot of funding, they might not be like the best solution. And I think the other problem is just user experience. Bitcoin is very complicated, and I don't think it was ever built with the idea that the average person can just go in and use it very easily. There's a lot of concepts that you have to understand to use it properly, and we spend a lot of time trying to simplify that experience in our wallet to make sure that someone who isn't a Bitcoin expert can use Bitcoin.
Domo, you said something very interesting. You said the unlocking liquidity. And so I guess not just in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but in every crypto ecosystem, I think liquidity is one of the most important things. How do you see, I guess, Bitcoin being like all these different projects being able to unlock this liquidity? Like, what are some of the things you think are going to be required for this catalyst to happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we've only seen I see a lot of decks, and often it's like the size of Bitcoin ecosystem right now compared to Bitcoin market cap. So it's it's a challenge that everyone's focusing on. I think what we need to stay away from often is I think it's quite friction filled for people to bridge their Bitcoin other places. I think the security concerns are often talked about, but the actual action of bridging is like a massive drop off if you users. It's just not a great experience. So I think it needs to be on the layer 1 for the most part. I think things like yield on top of Bitcoin will be a big step in that direction. I think if you look at Ethereum, there's native yield built into the protocol, so people don't need to go seeking it here and there. But Bitcoin is much more challenging unless you wrap it and go in Ethereum or whatever. So I think if you can offer native yield on the layer 1, I think that could be more compelling to get people to to deposit in. Yeah, but we're seeing things like Babylon that are testing that. So yeah, excited to see what comes next.
Awesome. So what are some of the more interesting projects or developments in the space that you guys are seeing and are excited about? I mean, I see you guys on a lot of cap tables or a lot of partnerships with different projects. I'm curious to get your take on what you're most excited about.
So I think any project that is building on opcat, which is the new or old opcode that is being considered to be added back into Bitcoin script, which will unlock a lot of more advanced scripts and smart contracts on Bitcoin. I think that will really change the game in terms of what you can do on Bitcoin directly on layer 1 without even having a layer 2 involved. I mean, you're still going to have the limitations of it being expensive, but now you have the ability to build something like a DeFi solution or a DEX or something like that. So basically any project that works with opcat, I am very bullish on.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess my answer would be companies that are building solutions to the 3 problems that I outlined earlier. I think if you look at the liquidity side, like I think there's a lot of DEXs, but they have often trust assumptions. If we can remove those or limit those to a degree, I think that's exciting. Interoperability, I think if I had to pick one, I think that's probably the biggest in the space. So there's a couple of projects that are working on that. They're yet to be released. Some others in different niches like Babylon is quite interesting. And then just one other thing that I think we didn't touch on is Bitcoin MEV is going to be a hot topic in the next year. So there's a few projects working on that behind the scenes as well. Yeah.
So can you name some of these projects so that people could do some research and look into them?
Rebar is a MEV project.
Okay.
Then I guess the self-shield, like we're working on a program, a swap module within BRC20, so you can use an experience that you might be used to from a Uniswap or trading an AMM on Solana. It will be a similar experience there, and kind of removes that friction of going through a single-sided order book. So excited to see that, and people can see that with Fractal, which is releasing next week. That same experience that is offered there will be coming to Layer 1 in BRC20 as well.
Cool. So let's shift gears to ordinals. So for people that don't know what ordinals are, they're basically, an easy way to think about it is Bitcoin NFTs. Just curious if you guys can share which ordinals did you first purchase, and what are your favorite ordinals right now?
I can go. So the first one I inscribed was my own punk.
Okay.
So first one I bought was the Ordinals Faces by a guy named Paz. I think those are super cool OG gifts. I think in the first 10,000. So I really like those. And I bought it from a spreadsheet from someone on Discord. So it was like the OG
wow.
days. And then a friend of mine is coming out with a collection, also sub 100K, but I think it's kind of cool. It's called Bit Bars, and they're launching in the next year or so. Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't remember which one I bought first, but I was inscribing very early on, and unfortunately the first inscriptions I made were like test or something like that, and they were like very low numbers. I mean, hopefully there was something one day, but I did inscribe the Xverse logo and the Bitcoin logo. I think it was sub 100K, so maybe those will be.
So for the people that don't know what, like the inscription sub 10,000K or sub 100K, can one of you guys explain that so that they could understand the significance of that?
Yeah, the Ordinals protocol is very simple. It's basically it tracks Satoshis over time, so turns Satoshis into tokens, and then the protocol, so-called inscription, converts data that you put onto the chain and pairs it with that Satoshi that you can then track that around over time, and they're bound, thus creating the NFT. Once that was launched, each inscription was ordered, was given an inscription ID and an inscription number, and those went up over time. So the first 10K were the first 10,000 inscriptions, first 100K, 100K. But there's also an interesting quirk where there's negative numbers as well. So there's, I think, there's negative 550,000 on the other side as well to complicate things further. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask you about that later. Actually, it's my first time hearing about that. Okay, so I guess in terms of the evolution of like what's next for BRC20, what do you think is next for runes? We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
I can tackle BRC20. I think we're keenly aware that the user experience on Bitcoin with fungibles is just more friction-filled, less enjoyable than other ecosystems. So we're trying to attack those pain points, starting with the liquidity by building the swap. And then we're going to explore into different things like programmability. So you can create more apps. You can create better systems that are more interoperable with others, perhaps runes, kind of close that system off. So yeah, really just trying to tackle the UX problems that users are facing.
Your thoughts on
runes? Well, I'm not a author of the protocol, so I can't really speak to what will actually happen next. But I think what would be really useful is something built into the protocol that allows swaps, right? Because right now, we've explored a lot of solutions, and none of them are perfect. They all have trade-offs, and I think the biggest unlock would be something that's completely trustless on-chain swapping for runes.
This is really good stuff. This is stuff that I think could create, there's a lot of opportunity for developers to tackle these problems. So thank you for sharing that. Today we're here in Korea. Thank you guys for coming all the way here.
Thank you.
What do you see? What role do you see Korea playing in the advancement of the Bitcoin ecosystem?
I mean, I could do some numbers. But right now, like someone's telling me there's 6 million KYC'd accounts within Korea itself. There's only 600,000 Ordinals users that have ever made a trade. So Korea could become a very strong user base if the community so chose to go on-chain onto Bitcoin. Could really create its own sub-ecosystem within Ordinals and push Korean culture on-chain, which is like I think that would be cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of talented builders here in Korea, and I think if they were to put their minds together and build on Bitcoin, that would be a huge plus to the ecosystem.
Cool, thank you. So I think there are a lot of people that maybe here or people that are going to watch this want to have a break through a career in Bitcoin or crypto. What do you think are some, I guess, good steps that they can take to do that?
Get on chain, I think. I think just play around with the protocols. Put yourself out there on chain, and then also in real life, go to conferences. I think those are what I recommend.
Yeah, I would say meet some people. You don't have to be a programmer or anything like that to even be in the ecosystem. There's a ton of other roles where you could play and without knowing without being really technical. Speaking of which, we're actually hiring for people on the marketing side. So
nice.
If you're interested, come talk to us.
Awesome. I think there's just a lot of information. At least for me, I get a lot of information from Twitter or X, and there's just a lot of strong thought leaders and people that are very open-minded if you reach out to them or shoot them a DM. Are there any people, apart from yourselves, that you would recommend people follow to learn more about the Bitcoin Renaissance?
Well, I think the creator of the Ordinals protocol is probably someone that you want to follow, and then follow Xverse.
Of course, Xverse.
Yeah, I think, the Ordinals Discord is where a lot of people got their early questions answered. I think that's always a great resource specifically for Ordinals. And then reach out to me as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, that's the one thing. When I first started to engage with the community, I noticed that a lot of people were just very open and willing to discuss and debate ideas. So the fact that DOMO said, hey, reach out to him, that's like really, really cool. Okay, so last question. So I think this cycle, what I hear a lot, it's been very challenging for a lot of people in terms of trading. What are your guys' prediction for the price of Bitcoin for December 31st, 2024, end of year?
0? I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, NFA, not financial
Not
advice.
financial advice.
80K.
Okay.
I would say over 100,000.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Well, thank you. I think we can wrap it up.